Yeah. So Jason, we were just kind of talking about it a little bit at the top of the episode here about how if you're an 80s kid, and I mean, look at these Hulk Hogan, Ozzy Osbourne, obviously such celebrities, such icons that it doesn't matter when you were born, you know who they are. It doesn't matter if you liked rock music or not. You knew about Ozzy Osbourne. It didn't matter if you watched wrestling or not. You know who Hulk Hogan is. You've seen his life play out over the past 40 years. They were that, integral to pop culture. But if you grew up as a little kid in the 80s and the early 90s, these guys, I mean, Ozzy Osbourne, of course, had broken out and had his solo career after Black Sabbath, and it was so big, and he really became, just with being a member of Black Sabbath, I mean, he was an architect of heavy metal music.
We almost forget about that because he did so many other things after that and really blew up. But Black Sabbath just by itself is a massive chapter, right?
Yeah. It's kind of like Dave Grohl, right?
Right.
Drummer for Nirvana, which is this legendary, iconic, culture-shifting band, and then goes on to do the Foo Fighters. You know what I mean? Which in its own right is just this band that's had a almost 30-year career. But anyway, I found out the news about Ozzy Osbourne, and I think that one of the most beautiful things is that, not even 2 weeks before his passing, he had the big farewell concert, and I think that was it's so amazing to me as a musician that he got to do that. I'm so happy that he got to perform and got to sing and do that and have that send off and be in front of an audience like that. That's really, really a beautiful thing to me.
Did you hear how much money they raised?
Yeah, like $200 million or something.
Yeah, just short of $200 million.
For charity.
That's wild. That's almost like Live Aid, Farm Aid territory. And it was broadcast on the internet. That is the power of community beyond even the venue. And I thought that even him being in the chair, right? Yeah. I saw Willie Nelson about a year ago.
Yeah.
And he brought his grandson on stage, and his 90-year-old sister was playing piano. And, he's slowed down for sure, but there was something he's a road warrior. You can't take that out of these old guys, right? They still want to perform. And Ozzy proved it a couple weeks ago. He's like, I'm going out on top. I probably know something's happening. And he did it.
Yeah, and and his singing wasn't perfect, but I mean, in 76, the health problems, and of course, learning that he was that close to death.
Right.
I mean, it was just amazing, and again, whether you liked him or not, or his music and the whole Prince of Darkness thing, it's just, you see the outpouring of emotion from people all over the world, and how so many artists and musicians that have just been inspired by him. So, and again, we talked about Hulk Hogan, and I was really surprised. I was so shocked when I saw that news come across my phone, and I have been thinking about that so much over the past 2 days. Truly crushed. Hulk Hogan as a persona, was my hero growing up. I mean, I was that target demographic for the WWF in the late 80s, early 90s. I was a little kid that just...
I mean, listen, as you know, I also, grew up... I actually watched Hulk Hogan on AWA, which was the Midwest version of WWF, where it was regional. So I was a big fan, and when things blew up with WrestleMania... and Saturday Night Main Event, which was also always watched that with all my my buddies, and then later in life to be able to have two boys of my own and actually go work for WWE was
really cool.
Crazy. I have so many stories. I've met Iron Sheik. I've met Roddy Piper coming out of a meeting with Vince and Stephanie McMahon. I just have so many things, but I will share the first time that I actually saw Hulk Hogan larger than life figure. And it was actually in 2011 or 2012. I was working for WWE, and there was a black tie event in New York City, near Times Square at the Nokia Theater. Martin Short was an MC. There was just like bands and charity, and it was cool. So the WWE had a table, and I was lucky enough to be at that table. And Triple H was with us that night, which was really cool. I've got a selfie with him. And by the way, he's awesome.
Yeah.
And we knew that Hulk Hogan was there, but Hulk Hogan was not part of the WWE at that time. But you couldn't avoid it, right? So Hogan walks over during a break and starts talking to Triple H. And I'm at the table, and I position my phone a little bit up so I could take a photo. And so the two start talking. And, it's my belief that that was one of those, like, chipping away at the kind of bringing Hogan back in one of those, you leave, you come back, you leave, you come back.
Yeah.
And so I just remember, because this was an audience of New York socialites and charitable folks and just well-known people, and everyone froze. They saw these two, like, big guys talking, and it was like everyone became a fan again. And it was actually really incredible. So I thought about that yesterday when I got the news.
Yeah, and it's funny because I was actually with my my kid's almost 4 now, and I was showing him some like tribute videos of Hulk Hogan, and he had no idea who Hulk Hogan was. But watching these old videos and stuff from the late 80s, early 90s, and it was just, he was so captivated, and I was really paying attention to his reaction.
Mm-hmm.
And it was amazing to see a kid of that age for the first time see this. And I was like, number one, that was me, but I get it. It is just, you could not take your eyes off of it. When he came into the arena and the pop of the audience, and hulking up after winning a match, and the whole ear thing and the flag. I mean, it was just so awesome. And Terry Bollea, the man, has had some issues. No, not going to try to justify or explain away any of that stuff. But the figure of Hulk Hogan, undeniably, just one of the, he's already gone down in history, but he'll continue to go down in history as just this icon that spanned generations, and it's really, really sad. Anyway, we'll get into the. As I was thinking about Ozzy Osbourne, and I wanted to kind of tie this in and do something a little bit fun and talk about him, and just kind of keep the memory alive, and in our little way. Ozzy Osbourne, no stranger to controversy in his career and his life. And I went back. Some of these I knew, some I did not. And I just wanted to, his arrests, basically, what crimes has he committed?
It's not mean-spirited way. It's just this is Ozzy.
This is Ozzy. And you'll see a lot of them are just, I don't want to say innocent, but they're not bad. There's a couple that, the first arrest I could find, I think this is the first time he was arrested, when he was 17 in 1965. He stole a TV and attempted to climb over a wall with it, and it didn't work out. And he got arrested, spent 6 weeks in a British prison. His dad, and he stayed in there because his dad refused to pay the fine to get him out. And he's 17, and less than 3 years later, Black Sabbath was formed. Which, by the way, started when he was 19. I think by the time before he was 21, they had released their first album, if I'm not mistaken, and history was made.
He needed to steal that TV in order for Black Sabbath to be formed. He needed the creative juices. 6 weeks in prison to
maybe,
right?
Man, I don't know. But it's another incident which I completely forgot about, but as I was reading about it, I was like, oh, that's right, that was a big thing. And this happened when I was a year old. But as I got into Ozzy in the late 80s and stuff, I remember hearing about this because it was a huge deal. In 1982, the famous or infamous Alamo incident, probably his highest profile arrest, in 1982, during a tour stop in San Antonio, Texas. during a drunken stupor, he urinated on the Alamo Cenotaph, a monument. It's like a 65-foot, I think, monument there at the Alamo, and completely wasted.
I forgot about that.
Yeah, right?
But that's part of the lore and icon of what
Yeah.
you're absolutely right. I forgot
Right.
about that.
Yep. Yep. And yeah, it was a big deal. He got arrested, caught in the act, got arrested, and this large statue, was honoring the defenders who died in 1836, the Battle of the Alamo and all that. Arrested for public intoxication and was banned from performing in San Antonio for a decade because of that. Yeah, and I just remember that because that also was part of the Prince of Darkness, that whole thing. The allure of him was, rock guy's bad boy. He's banned from playing, and it was kind of like back to Elvis when he's, banned from playing in places.
That and the bats, and I don't know if you'll get into that, but these things, he starts to build something in his collective, story.
Yep. I'm gonna get to that. I'm gonna get to that. He did redeem himself later, much later. I think in the early 90s, he had made 92. I think it was right after they allowed him back into San Antonio. He went to the mayor of San Antonio and expressed remorse and a public apology, and then made a $10,000 donation to the Daughters of Texas or something organization. I forget what it's called, who maintain the Alamo, and then went back again in 2015 for a Discovery Channel show that he did with his son Jack.
Right.
And they actually posted a really cool, I don't know, the Alamo posted something after his death, and they kind of talked about this and saying that he had redeemed himself, and it was a big deal for us in Texas, but forgiven and
that's interesting.
Yeah,
interesting. Wow.
In 1984, in Memphis, strolling down Beale Street, completely hammered and alone, arrested for public intoxication. They say that police found him staggering drunk on Beale Street, and I think he had a shirt on that was like St. Louis Blues or something like this. It's kind of like insult to injury for Beale Street, the home of the Blues. He was released after 5 hours in custody and didn't have to go back to court. They just kind of said, get out.
And these are the bloaty years of Ozzy too. He was really unhealthy, a complete drinker. I mean, you go back in time and you see him, he was in rough shape, but it's actually impressive how he improved himself and his physical fitness and all that stuff, even with the health problems later in life.
Yeah.
It's pretty rough looking back at him. You could tell it physically, he was not in great shape.
Oh yeah. He was, and I remember, and I even went back and watched some of the clips, from specials. There was MTV went with him in the late 80s and stuff. And he just was, he was completely wasted on so many of those things, it was just all the time. And one of the events that I'm going to talk about now is actually something that he says helped to, and this is his most serious criminal offense. But he attributes this to helping him actually want to begin to get sober. In 1989, following a period of intense drug and alcohol abuse, he attempted to strangle his wife and manager, Sharon Osbourne. He was arrested and charged with attempted murder. That's a big deal. And I didn't remember that right off the bat. I don't know. I didn't remember that he was actually charged with attempted murder, because there might have been no more Ozzy for at least quite a few years if he would have gone to prison. But ultimately, Sharon Osbourne decided to not press charges, but he was ordered to attend a 6-month treatment plan, a treatment program. But he again says that was one of the big things that said.
What year was that?
That was 89.
Yeah, so not quite after that, but further down the line, you know.
You know, that's a decade plus of hard drinking and drug use. So,
Yeah, and you know, you start
um,
to slowly see the reinvention of Ozzy, and even Sharon coming back. I mean, we'll get to it, of course, with the Osbournes reality show, but like,
yeah.
you know, like,
And I was having this talk with somebody the other day, Ozzy again being so famous, and over the past 15 years, probably he's more famous for being this character. He's
yeah,
a caricature of himself in a lot of ways, or has been because of that show, right? The Osbournes. And so many people know him from that and go, oh, well, yeah, he's a musician, whatever, but that's where they sort of learned who Ozzy Osbourne is, or where they came to like him as a character.
yep,
And when I was kind of talking to, having this conversation the other day, I was just like, it trips me out because you have just different generations that come to this crossroads, but I grew up with, the Ozzy we're talking about now, where he was just this dark, dangerous, mysterious. You really thought, because it was before social media, it was before reality TV, you didn't see behind the curtain.
yeah.
And you really thought this guy was out there, like, is he a Satanist? Is he a demon? I mean,
And I remember you remember like the MTV countdown shows where they would have like the top 10 videos of the day every day
yeah,
that they would count down. It's like 5 or
sure.
6 o'clock. And I remember, this is so corny. I was like a sophomore in high school,
Here we
and
go.
Shot in the Dark
Oh
came
yeah,
out. And
yeah,
I'm like, wow, that looks like a pretty rough crowd. Like I could never, like I love the music, but I'm
yeah.
like, I could never show up at a concert
I
like
ain't
that.
going to
Like that,
that concert.
yeah. And did end up seeing him in probably like early 90s or so,
Yeah,
at Alpine Valley Music Theater in East Troy, Wisconsin, which is a very, very famous venue. And yeah, he was there. He was there for it. Zach
yeah,
Wilde and the whole crew.
yeah. I saw him at the very first Ozfest, which was also the first
Mm.
time that Black Sabbath had done a reunion since their
Oh,
breakup.
wow. Yeah.
Because of course he got kicked out of Black Sabbath. If you don't know, for drug and alcohol abuse. But it was so awesome. Because I listened. Listen, if you play guitar, if you learned to play guitar after, I don't know, 1980, one of the first things you learn, there's a couple things that you learn. It's either Stairway to Heaven,
Right.
but that's a little difficult. So one of the first things you learn is it's Smoke on the Water by Deep Purple,
Yeah.
or Iron Man, because they're
Hmm.
easy, but they're iconic. So anyway, it was really cool to see that. I wanted to do some honorable mentions. These, yeah, they do kind of blur the line of crime and not, depending on where you're at or how you look at it. But you mentioned it before, the bat biting incident.
Let's call these incidents. How's that?
Well, it was. It's probably one of the things up until the last several years with the reality show. This is what Ozzy Osbourne was known probably the most for. In 1982, during a show in Des Moines, Iowa, he bit the head off a bat thrown onto the stage by a fan, and later said that he thought it was rubber. It was a rubber bat, rubber toy. And so he was just gonna, playing, he's in this character, and it was a real bat, and he had bitten the head off of it. So it just became like legendary rock history. I mean, it's
And
really
I feel
became.
like he did. I feel like everyone else talked about it, and it took him a while to actually like kind of confirm and tell this story a little bit. I think he maybe was Sharon, or well, I don't know what it was, but they're like, you might
Oh,
want to lean into this a
oh,
little
you
bit.
lean into it, yeah. And
Yeah.
that's funny that you say that, because another big thing like that was Alice Cooper, who someone had thrown or he wanted to release someone had thrown a chicken. Somehow a chicken was at an Alice Cooper show, and it got onto the stage, and he went to throw it out over the crowd, thinking it could at least fly enough to get away. And it didn't, of course. It went into the crowd, and they ripped this chicken apart. This completely ripped it apart, and were throwing pieces of a
Yeah.
chicken. And that was a big thing, because in both of these, with Ozzy and this other one, all of a sudden reports come out in the newspaper, and with the bat biting incident, I was reading there were news reports coming out that not only was he biting the heads off bats, but he was sawing a sheep's head in half on stage. I mean, it just grows, you know what I mean? And now you've got this dangerous dark rock star guy, the Prince of Darkness, and he's doing this at his shows, and parents, no way are you going to, you know, so then.
Which is why you want to show up.
That's why you want to go.
It sells records.
Right.
It sells tours.
Yeah.
You get to have something called Ozfest.
Yeah.
You know, like, you remember Monsters of Rock.
Sure.
Ozfest kind of became Monsters of Rock when you think about it, with his name on it, when you think about it.
Yeah. Yeah. And, you know, the year prior to that, a lot of people know about this one too, but the dove decapitation. So his wife Sharon, and, you know, wife and manager, they have a meeting with record executives. They get to the office, and she's trying to do something that's just going to impress them, and they came up with this plan of he's going to have 3 white doves with him, and at the start of the meeting, or when he walks in, he's going to release them, and it'll be this wow moment. Whoa, it's larger than life. And he was nervous. As he says later, he was nervous, drank a half a bottle of whiskey before the meeting. Mind you, meetings aren't usually at 3 or 4 in the evening. So it's probably 10 a.m. And 2 of the doves were released, and one he just grabbed and he bit the head off of it. And the executives were not pleased. Had security escort both of them out of the building, and they were banned from ever returning.
There's nerves, and then there's nerves, right?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, they that didn't go well. One of the other things I thought was, I had never heard this before. During the height of his drug addiction, he admitted to, later in an interview with a Guitar magazine, he had admitted to shooting and killing 17 of his family's pet cats. He had been home on drugs, you know, probably for days. Sharon was gone. I don't even know if they were married at the time, but she returned. He had shot all 17 cats, and I don't know why they have that many, but 17 cats were dead by shotgun, and she found Ozzy Osbourne under the piano with a shotgun in one hand and a knife in the other. And again, that was another turning point, I think, for him. As he said later, of like, I need help. I got a problem. I had never heard that.
I had never heard that either. That's wild. Like, I've heard of people shooting squirrels in your backyard, but never the house cats, you know?
Yeah. And again, I mean, you know, look, man, this is all true crime stuff. And I mean, it's certainly not legal to do that.
Right.
He never got arrested. There was never anything to it. But, anyway, that's what I've got, for Ozzy. And
I love him.
And
I
his
love him.
crimes.
Ozzy's the best. He's the best. He's the best. Yeah, it's sad, and he made his mark.
Yeah. So much so. Really, again, just a sad week. And honorable mention too. I think Malcolm Jamal Warner. Again, growing up in the 80s, you watched the Cosby Show. You know, he kind of was largely out of the public eye, but in the last number of years, but was surprised to see that. So it's been a bad week for us 80s kids. That's all I got. Stay safe, stay healthy, be good, and we'll see you next time. This is How It All Went South.